In December, the calm Caribbean was shattered when U.S. forces seized the oil tanker Skipper off Venezuela's coast. The Skipper, carrying Venezuelan crude, was intercepted by the U.S. military, an unprecedented escalation in the standoff with Nicolás Maduro's regime. U.S. officials say the ship was previously sanctioned for ties to Iran's Revolutionary Guard and Hezbollah, and was deceptively flying Guyana's flag. The U.S. called it a crackdown on illicit oil funding Maduro's government. Venezuela called it piracy and a blow to their sovereignty. For Maduro, the loss of the Skipper's oil is a direct hit to his cash-strapped government. The seizure signals a new, more aggressive U.S. approach, one that goes beyond sanctions to direct action. The world is now watching. Will this bold move destabilize the region or force Maduro's hand? The U.S. operation was swift and forceful. Marines and Coast Guardsmen rappelled from a helicopter onto the Skipper's deck, treating the tanker as a high-risk target. Intelligence suggested the ship carried advanced electronic warfare tech, far beyond a normal oil tanker. Once secured, the U.S. announced plans to bring the Skipper and its oil to an American port for legal forfeiture. President Trump summed it up. "We keep it, I guess." The operation was part of a larger military buildup, with fighter jets and the USS Gerald Ford deployed nearby. This show of force was a clear warning to Maduro and his allies. The U.S. made it clear sanctions would now be enforced at sea, not just on paper. To understand the tanker's seizure, you have to understand Venezuela's crisis. Nicolás Maduro, unrecognized by the U.S. and much of the West, clings to power through repression and disputed elections. U.S. sanctions target Venezuela's oil, the regime's economic lifeblood. Oil once made Venezuela rich, but now, under sanctions and mismanagement, the industry is crippled. Maduro sells oil at a discount to a handful of buyers willing to risk U.S. penalties. The Skipper's seizure is a direct strike at these illicit sales. Meanwhile, opposition leader Maria Corina Machado's dramatic escape from Venezuela has shaken Maduro's inner circle. Her flight raises doubts about the loyalty of his security forces. The regime faces pressure from both inside and out. The U.S. strategy is twofold: cut off Maduro's oil revenue and disrupt drug trafficking. Officials accuse Maduro's circle of running the Cartel of the Suns, using oil smuggling routes for cocaine. The U.S. military has ramped up counter-narcotics operations, destroying dozens of suspected drug boats in recent months. New sanctions target Maduro's relatives, shipping companies, and vessels tied to oil and drugs. The pressure is relentless, designed to isolate Maduro and cripple his finances. Critics warn this military escalation risks a wider conflict. Advanced jets and warships now patrol the Caribbean, raising the stakes. The U.S. insists it wants a peaceful transition, but the risk of miscalculation is real. The Skipper incident is part of a bigger power struggle. China buys most of Venezuela's oil using secretive routes to dodge U.S. sanctions, and invests heavily in the country's infrastructure. The U.S. sees this as a direct challenge and is cracking down on tankers and companies helping Maduro. Russia too backs Maduro with political and military support. Putin called Maduro after the seizure, signaling solidarity. The crisis is now a proxy battle, U.S. versus China and Russia, for influence in Latin America. Even Colombia, now part of China's Belt and Road, is feeling U.S. pressure. Washington's message is clear: help Maduro, and you risk U.S. retaliation. The campaign isn't just about Venezuela. It's about reasserting American dominance in the region. The Caribbean has become a new front in global geopolitics. While governments clash, Venezuelans endure a deepening crisis: shortages, blackouts, and mass exodus. For most, the tanker's seizure is distant news. Daily survival is the real battle. The world is divided. U.S. allies back restoring democracy, but many worry military action will worsen the humanitarian disaster. Russia, China, and Cuba condemn the U.S. move as illegal aggression. At home, critics say the Trump administration's tactics are risky and could spark war. Some point to the contradiction: cracking down on Venezuelan oil while letting Chevron operate there. Maria Corina Machado, now in exile, calls for global support against both Maduro and his foreign backers. The fate of Venezuela's people hangs in the balance, caught between repression and international power plays. The U.S. aims to topple Maduro by choking off oil and targeting drug networks. The Skipper's seizure marks a new confrontational phase: direct action, not just sanctions. But the risks are high. Military escalation could draw in Russia and China, destabilizing the region. Maduro's regime, though battered, has survived before. Now, he may lean even more on foreign allies. The coming months will test whether this gamble brings change or deeper crisis. The world watches for signs of retaliation or collapse. The Caribbean is now a front line in a global contest for power. For Venezuela's people, the hope for relief remains uncertain.